perfect situation.
And after on Nuggets postgame live.
That was crazy.
It's playoff coverage on Altitude Sports, Altitude Plus, and KTVT Channel 20. The following is a special presentation of Nuggets playoff coverage on Altitude Sports.
So what's making me more mad right now? The fact that the Nuggets lost by 43, or that my laptop doesn't work? It just stopped working.
Yeah, it did.
Sort of like the Nuggets did in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Just stopped working.
Right.
Welcome to our Nuggets post-game show. Vic Lombardi, Chris Dempsey, the only working computer. Oh, no, you've got one, too, as well,
I've
Chris
got one,
Marlowe.
too. I'm gonna hand you my
No, I've got a
phone
phone.
down.
It's all right.
You got a phone?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not sure what to say after that. That was one of those games where it sort of leaves you speechless, but does it carry over into Friday night? That's the only concern. Does something like that carry over? Marlo, you've been around a long time, centuries of basketball. Does that carry over?
It could carry over. It could carry over, depending how the Nuggets treat it. I just felt like right at the get-go, the Nuggets were not really ready to play. They were too happy from the previous game. They're getting all the accolades, the glazing. I know you guys love that term. Everybody talking about how great they were, and the last play was fantastic, and Gordon making that shot. Once you hear that, you get all the pats on the back. You get too happy. And OKC was ready to go because they had gotten all the criticism. So I think that right from the get-go.
Well, yeah, you knew you were going to get a inspired effort out of OKC today. You also knew that, unfortunately for the Nuggets, you went from the number 3 defensive rating team in the league in the LA Clippers to the number 1 defensive rating team in the league in the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they put all that on the court, right? They have great defensive players. They cause a lot of chaos on that end, and they did from the get-go. And look, it's. You get a split in this, in the first 2 games, and that's really what matters most. The details of how this went down, they'll go over, and they'll be much more ready to go on Friday.
Time for our drive of the game, brought to you by your Mountain States Ford dealers. We do have a drive of the game, and here it is. A 3 by Oklahoma City, a dunk by Oklahoma City, 87 first-half points by Oklahoma City. Drive, yeah, that drove all right. It drove me crazy. 87 points. That's an NBA playoff record.
Yeah, look, it's a great offense. Look, this team had the biggest point differential in the NBA history. I mean, they won their games by an average of 13 points per game. And you don't just do that just by playing great defense. Your ability to play offense obviously is paramount there. You have a guy in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, led the league in scoring. Then you have just an offensive system with so many players. I think the thing that we saw today, Chris, was the number of shooters that they have. They can just bring them off the bench in droves, and makes it very difficult to hone in on a couple of guys when everybody else is hitting as well.
Yeah, it was interesting when you're looking at the stats at the end. The Nuggets actually shot well from 3. They made a bunch of free throws. I would quibble with one thing you said, though. I thought the Nuggets got good looks early. First 5-6 minutes of the game, they're getting wide open corner threes, wide open, and they couldn't make them. They just couldn't make them. And so I think when we hear David Adelman, we shot poorly, we couldn't keep up with them. They were on a roll. But you got to make baskets. You have to score the basketball.
Not only that, in Game 1, Oklahoma City was 0 for 10 in the first quarter from the three-point line. They made their threes from the onset tonight. They were in rhythm. Time now to see who's all in, presented by Ball Corporation. All in for the Nuggets. Aluminum, all in. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 34 points on 11 of 13.
Yeah, this is his best game of the playoffs.
By the way, that plus 51, the highest plus-minus number in the history of the NBA playoffs.
Did you get that off your computer?
I got that off my phone. My phone works.
Hey, electronics, you got to love smartphones.
Yeah.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing all the things that we know he can do, right? Get straight to the paint, get to the rim, get to the mid-range, and he had it all working today. Look, he hadn't had the greatest shooting performance so far in the playoffs, period. Not the first round, and obviously not in game number 1. But certainly today he was, look, this is the player that, it makes him one of the top two vote getters for the MVP.
Scott Hastings and I always kid around. He's always offense, Bill Hanslick's defense. So what was the problem tonight? Was it the offense or the defense?
All of it. I think. By the way, I got another gem from my phone. My buddy just texted me. Said you should remember this. You remember the Boston Massacre at Boston Garden? Do you remember that series
with the Lakers?
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah. So the Lakers just got trounced in that game. The Lakers ended up winning that series in 6.
They did.
So we've seen trouncings before in NBA playoff series.
Which brings up another question. Would you rather lose like the Nuggets did tonight by 43, or would you have rather lost the other night on a buzzer beater?
Yeah. 106. We'll hear from Coach Adelman momentarily. But first, I want to tackle the question that Mr. Marlowe posed before we went to break. Pose it again.
Would you rather lose a game like this, you get pounded by 43, it went out the window early, or be like OKC, who basically gave the game away and lost by 2 the other night? Dan?
Vic?
Either way, it's a 1-1 series, right? Either way. I would say, the old Doug Moe theory, Woody Page mentioned it tonight, and Doug used to say it all the time, if you're going to lose big. Lose big and just let it carry over, because perhaps it'll jostle you awake. And if there's anything we've learned about these Nuggets, this particular brand of Nuggets, I don't think they do well as front runners. They do much better when they're doubted. They do much better when they have to come from behind. They do much better in a situation like this than when they win. And I can't put a finger on it. I don't know why. So would I rather get blown out by 43 or win by 2? At the end of the day, I'm not sure it really matters.
Well, I think when you're an athlete, Jokic said it best. Sometimes when you get slapped, it wakes you up.
Yes.
And I think the Nuggets got embarrassed tonight, slapped hard, and I expect them to fully rebound in Game 3, utilize this. They didn't give the game away. They just...
Yeah. Chris, you never answered the question. What do you think?
Well, okay, I'll just add a little nuance to it. I actually agree with you both. I think that I would rather lose big. However, if in losing big, it's put on display that you're actually not as good as that team, that team has found something that they will then use and just bludgeon you repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly over the course of a series, then that's a problem. I don't think that was necessarily the case today. I thought we saw Oklahoma City fix all the problems that ailed them in the first game and then just get to what their personality is. And the Nuggets can do the same thing going into Game 3. And so I expect Game 3 to be a lot more competitive. I'd rather lose like this, learn a lesson, get embarrassed, and then use it as fuel the next game.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's hear what the coach has to say. Tonight's coach's comments brought to you by Advent Health. Here's Coach Adelman from OKC.
David, after a blowout loss to the Clippers, you stressed it's one game.
Hello, xin chào các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục đi tô màu để gửi tặng đến các bạn. Để làm được video này mình cần chuẩn bị những dụng cụ như sau. Đây là những sản phẩm mình chuẩn bị sẵn đây là những hình thù mình chuẩn bị sẵn. Trong đó có những con vật, đồ vật và động vật vân vân. Đấy, đây là điện thoại để mình quay video. Đây là điện thoại để mình quay lại quá trình mình làm video. Đây là bút sáp màu nha các bạn nhé. Đấy, mình sẽ dùng bút sáp màu mình tô màu. Đấy, đây là điện thoại để quay lại quá trình mình làm video này. Và mình mong rằng các bạn hãy ấn like và đăng ký kênh để ủng hộ mình. Mình cảm ơn các bạn rất là nhiều.
Mày toàn đi chơi ấy.